A brief synopsis of Christian 21's information and revelations for the great spiritual awakening of mankind, The Lizard of Oz, in 3 parts. For children to understand Part 1 by Leon-George Sinclair, this last synopsis is especially for the resonating army of souls who woke up in time to understand exactly what has transpired here, on this planet that you call Earth. This information seems to be an anathema to most people, terrified by the truth. They mock and shun a reality stolen from them tens of thousands of years ago. Imagine, if you can, being born in a dark basement, weaned on bread and water, and lied to about what your life consists of, every day of your adolescent life into adulthood. You have never left the basement. You didn't mind because you knew no different. Your mother and father were never with you in the basement, save once a day to give you bread and water, and you were not cold, so you never minded too much. You were oblivious to reality itself, and were quite content with what you had. Your immediate needs were met, albeit very basically. The interaction you had with your parents was extremely limited. One day in your 40th year, someone left the cellar door open by accident, and you walked up the creaky wooden steps, crossed the threshold of the cellar doorway, feeling the air change a few degrees warmer, to see a brightly lit landscape. It's nothing at all like you have been viewing from the 4 walls of your candlelit basement over the last 40 years, void of real sunlight, and kept oblivious to anything else in your minuscule paradigm downstairs in the dark cellar. You hit the top step as the door pushes open. No one is in sight, but you see a room full of strange equipment, and soft things that look like one is meant to sit on them. There are many things hanging on the walls, and several other rooms decorated with a different color, and soft fabric to block the daylight out. The sky outside the windows is blue. There's green stuff on the floor in the garden, and wooden things growing that you saw in a few magazines that you managed to find in the basement over the years. You are blown away by what your eyes are taking in, so much color and light, scent and sound. It's all totally new to you. Your amazement drops your jaw to draw in the much-needed oxygen to process these new images and sensations. You step back momentarily before crumbling to the floor in shock. How? 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 You chant repeatedly in amazement that no one ever told you about this place, a place so close to where you have been living all these years. Yet you didn't know that this world even existed, let alone that it was just the other side of the closest wall, inches away from your paradigm. The people who fed you lied. They didn't tell you very much. They may have smiled a few times when they dropped the bread and water off to you downstairs in the basement. But you realize that your life to date was a pointless waste of time, a total lie. You then discover that the reason you were lied to was because you had brothers and sisters who were being raped and tortured by the same people who fed you every day. They didn't want you to ever realize this fact, so they kept you in the basement to avoid your suspicion. Letting you out of the cellar wasn't a good idea, in case you noticed that something wasn't quite right upstairs. All your siblings got fucked to death and eaten years ago. That would have been the screams you heard above your head, growing up in the basement all that time ago, yet thought one Leon of Waz, Part 1 XP, Leon 11:18, 257 to 31 AM, page 1. Nothing of, because you had nothing to relate the screams to. They were just screams in the wind to your closeted mind, hidden in the oblivion of misconception and the void of wisdom formed through the lack of knowledge in the absence of cerebral stimulation. So now introduce this analogy to our current hidden paradigm, the paradigm that I am trying to pierce through, on your behalf, with the information and revelations from Christian 21. So, hear me now, my people. A spoonful of reality. 178,000 years ago, attempts were made to prepare Realm 2 for a terrible event, an event that would not transpire for many thousands of years to come. Yet the Council of 12 Suns had foreseen this event unfold in the distant past, at a time before the actual creation of physical life itself had actually happened. As Christian explained, Source creation had accomplished everything in the higher light realms eons before the prospect of physical life was a plausible option. Akin to a design lab creating a passenger ocean liner, for instance, an aircraft or a Lamborghini vehicle. A luxury passenger, they're looking for designed. D. This software allows full design in real life situations as if the ocean liner is actually in the water. The design for the vessel envisaged is created in the minds of the designers, envisaged as a potential concept based on the consensus's realities amalgamated understanding of the word modern. People from every age recognize the importance of modernity, for modernity is the obvious stepping stone to tomorrow. Yet modernity itself is pre-planned subterfuge, a complete waste of time. But let me not digress. The software being used to design this cruise ship, an aircraft, a tall building, or your new iPhone, is able to run simulations of wear and tear, metal fatigue, wind resistance, rust timescales, water and salt erosion requirements, onboard waste recycling, onboard technology durability, etc. Every conceivable parameter is designed and tested long before the cruise ship enters manufacturing stage. Whether that's a cruise ship or a new Lamborghini, it's all created on a computer first to make sure it is going to work when production starts. It's exactly the same with physicality and the lower densities. It was all created and tested way before construction started. It's just that the source of all creation didn't need computer-aided design and real-time simulation software to run possibilities on metal fatigue and wind resistance. Source did all this a few billion years ago, in thought form, aided by the latter ancient of the masters of creation, being the originators of the Lyran lineage, created by the source of all creation as allies, replicas of source, like little sachets of ketchup, decanted from a larger bottle of source creational ketchup. These beings are mostly all here now, incarnated into the poverty end of the societal tiers of third density's unforgiving arena of interaction and dissatisfaction, evidenced quite well in the movie Jupiter Ascending. The lead female role is a young woman called Jupiter, an Earth woman who discovers what she actually is. But more on that later. So, 178,000 years ago, action was taken way back then to try and minimize the damage of what was to be a certain multi-dimensional train crash, for want of a better description. A highly negative event that would cause a huge blow to every single density in the cube simulation simultaneously, an event that would thwart every species from progression, until now. They could survive, but not thrive and flourish, because of what happened. And let us not forget that this cube simulation is what you call the entire universe at this moment in time, so what happens here in Realm 3 is affecting every single other world in the physical simulation, and also every single other dome in the gateway. So the Dome of Titans is affected, the Dome of Sheol is affected, the Dome of Silence is affected, the Dome of Five Peaks is affected. All because of the fact that Realm 3 is in the very center of the gateway's physical plane of existence. Right in the center of the huge toroidal fields. Epicenter is what you know of as Met Meru, or Black Rock. This is shown, as I said previously in prior synopses, to you in the Panama Pictures logo, the Toblerone Chocolate Company logo, the Black Rock Company, and many others. This Met Meru, aka Black Rock, is a mountain. It's the actual broken trunk of the original spirit tree. I cover this in more detail below somewhere, but for now, don't forget that Gateway 10 itself is not just one flat plane under a vast firmament. Well, correct that. It is physically one flat plane under a vast firmament, in a horizontal sense, but vertically, there are many more attributes to take into consideration. This is tricky to explain, and I'm not too sure where to start, but I will do my best. Think of your country, looking down on it as you would a map. Just your own country, not the entire world just yet, because I'm going to try and make this as easy as possible. You can see towns and cities, buildings and tarmac motorways, roads, train tracks, cathedrals, airports and hospitals, car parks, theme parks, housing estates, military bases, and the utilities of gas, electricity, and water being pumped, manufactured, and supplied to all these homes, offices, manufacturing centers, and government locations on the landscape in front of you. When you see your own town on the map, you locate your own house, street, estate, or village, and you look at the map legend, which explains how to read the map's scale, and how to measure a mile or a kilometer. You notice the proximity of the nearest village, town, or city. You can locate the closest hospital, the nearest school to your home, The closest power station is clearly marked out. You can discern where the train tracks start and finish, and you can see the sprawling nature of the layout of the cities. Over time, the maps change. The cities get larger, the roads more necessary, the hospitals more frequent, the airport's runways and departure lounges grow with the passing of time. Villages become rural suburbs, and then over a few decades, they meld into the actual city itself, and again the circumference of the city expands. But, for instance, take a map from the last 80 years. The city centers, all of them usually have a cathedral, here in the UK at least, because to win city status, you used to need to already have a cathedral. That has changed in recent years because my own town, Colchester, was awarded city status a few years ago, and we do not have a cathedral. But the point being is that all major nodal points of the natural Earth's energetic crystalline lattice network points converge here at these energetic nodal illumination outlets, and this is where cathedrals and churches were placed in the UK. But in other countries, there will be mosques, synagogues, or whatever other religious buildings are to be expected. These were originally all crystalline healing temples with the highest harmonic outputs of positive frequencies emanating from these areas within the geography of the overlay or country that it is situated in. Churches covered the minor nodal points way back long ago in the resets prior to 1728. Look back at the oldest known maps of settlements. Villages grow into towns, and towns into cities. Look at pyramid complexes and historical monuments, country estates with massive sprawling mansions for the social elite. Look at the deserted locations of the Inca, Aztec, Olmec, every single hospital on the planet, every single airport, every single historical monument, every single school, village, town, city, military base, every single prison, every single council waste dump, every single church. All these buildings and areas, plus all the rest I have not mentioned here, are all literally located on major nodal emanation points, or over the top of the submerged crystalline lattice membrane network's most prominent point. You know when you put your hand in a pond and pull out a bunch of pond weed, which has many different types, but in physicality, as a genre of green shit found floating on an average pond, when it is taken out of the water, it all acts in a similar way that is adequate for this explanation. The pond weed, when removed from the surface of the pond, will clump together. There will be larger clumps, and the strands of the pondweed form again after a few inches, or sometimes a few feet, species dependent, into larger clumps, and again into more strands, and so on, until a meter or so is thrown onto the river bank once removed or pond bank, lol. This is similar to the energetic crystalline lattice network, very similar for a semi-tangible understanding. The main nodal points are intersected by my many lattice network membranes, sometimes deep underground, sometimes in more shallow geography. The altar in a church, in every church, cathedral, or Boombaklat Ting, is named as such because the original purpose of this precise location's attributes has been altered. It's all very simple. Honestly, please, I beg you, wake up. It's so easy to see it all for what it is, when you get a small bit of reality to work off of. The first maps will show prototype villages. These settlements will spring up around the local church or cathedral. It may be a wooden church, a stone church, or whatever, and you will notice the close proximity of these early settlements are always near a natural spring or will have a vibrant river close by. Because this would have been the same when they were all crystalline healing temples, before the original occupation thousands of years prior. Water is essential in healing, especially in third density. The major nodal points were immediately suppressed and their purpose subverted with massive sprawling cathedrals and churches. In their respective countries, graveyards full of rotting bodies aid in the suppression of positive frequencies. Then, over time, it's no longer a few wooden houses near the church, for the passage of linear time is stretched, like an elastic band. Time is pulled out for the progression of progress, the suppression of longevity. For the parasites that live life in the fast lane, when they come in here, their reactions are like that of a housefly. They see you coming in ultra slow motion. They could catch you in chopsticks, but you could not return the parlay. But the previous crystalline healing temples, erected or sung with harmonic tones into physicality by the builders of the architecture of physical life, that's you resonating army, by the way, brothers and sisters, we're all connected, and still are, to the energetic crystalline lattice network that the temple sits on the main node of. So what this means is, as we will see further below, you guys are here for your soul harmonic architecture, not the third density trinkets of a bullshit-based fake wisdom, but your original and pure tones of high-density orchestration of the harmonic tones of creation, that when anchored by a harmonic anchor, progress and advance into light forms when sung into existence by pure thought, pure intention, love, and empathy. That is the only way possible to create in the higher light realms, because without love and empathy, there is no possibility to be able to be bestowed with what you call here godlike powers. That's another reason the parasites as a whole are unable to manifest at the higher densities, because they are unable to get anywhere close to the higher densities. So as to stay relevant in their respective time cycles, they have to steal and subvert all the technology and genetics that they can get their hands on. That's why Q said in post 4936 or 4966, that Aether is a war on for your DNA. That is the post that mentioned ascension, and as far as I am aware, there are only two posts that mention ascension. The war on for your DNA was for their experimentation and personal enhancement, for the parasites collectively cannot ascend past fourth density because of the love and empathy barrier. So they can only get new tech upgrades, etc., by stealing other species' technology and DNA, and making their tech work in the fourth density simulation, or the fake third density that they created here for us. As don't forget, you can go into lower densities from the higher densities, but to go from the lower to the higher, ascension is the only way to get there. It was Source Creation's security to guarantee that negativity could not access the higher realms and augment etheric matter, let alone physical matter. A harmonic anchor, when no longer a neophyte, will be able to hold a complex pattern of harmonic tones in a stable location, with which to create the structure, machine, edifice, equipment, or healing, etc. This is what being a harmonic anchor entails. Fractal weavers use harmonic tones sung into existence, mostly in the crystalline temples, temples that are now used to dampen the positivity, and are currently churches, synagogues, and mosques. Mosques are banging out highly negative Paki shit all day and night, a negative and satanic call to prayer. Sorry, I don't wanna digress. Lol fractal weavers have progressed a stage. They are able to not only sing the harmonic and stabilize its structure in physicality, they are able to hold that tone and weave its structure into highly complex patterns and structures. This is how intricate designs are manufactured on a massive scale. There are other roles and responsibilities back home, and they are not unusual, nothing whatsoever as to what one may have assumed. Harmonic tones are sung into sustained coherence. These coherent frequencies stabilize in and condense into light-form structures created from waves of undulating sound. This sound melds with the light that is created by their existence in the same, but reverse way, that a wine glass will fracture when hit with a certain vibration of sound, as is this, the reverse. But, I digressed. Where was I? Nodes and their separating membranes infrastructure. This is what you know of as ley lines. They network the entire realm, and these crystalline lattice networks are situated below ground and are one of the reasons why you have motorways situated where they are, train tracks on exactly that path, and power station pylons where they are located. They are also harvesting the nodal membrane pathways and intersections. The tarmac and concrete roads linking these major nodal points, including the train tracks, and the composition of the materials used in construction of these routes of passage linking nodal points, are all laid out over the crystalline lattice networks, suppressing their ability to do what they were created to do, being to heal you, to create homeostasis and permanent grounding. They then use the huge Baphomet power pylons to harvest energy from the lattice network, then take it to the transformer power station, for conversion into harmful AC/DC to then be pumped into people's homes, and the ways of life of a hoodwinked planetary population. Don't forget that you are sandwiched between the aether above your heads and the energetic crystalline lattice network below the ground that was amplified, originally by the giant trees that reached miles into the sky, connecting the high-altitude aether through the trees and into the ground. Their roots crisscrossed the entire realm, providing the needed energy to be promulgated throughout the entire realm, as is the same in every other realm except here, because the Greys were ordered to remove the Great Spirit Tree and all the other giant trees, first turning them to stone, then hitting them with an energy weapon. Also, the Greys were ordered to cut the mountains down. That's what you see all over the world. In Spain is a good example. In Andalusia you can see what looks like mountains snapped in half. The strata of the rock is perpendicular to the rest of the rock in the same location. It literally looks like someone snapped it in half, and that's because that is what happened. This damage wasn't done by the Earth when it formed over millions of years. No, it was the mincing little fuck-ass gray ET cunts. As with the trees, because to have a large and very tall structure, whether that is natural or technology embedded in the ground, yet towering miles into the sky, is going to create a healing environment all around it because it is linking the aether to the ground. The water flowing down a massive mountain will be highly energized, very healthy to drink, and all the fruit trees will be extremely nutritious. The flora and fauna will be vibrant and bursting with life and color. The tree roots create the circuit, and you are energized between the ground you are walking on, and the aether in the air around you, facilitated by the vast heights that the mountains and trees reach to. And when you think about it, this also makes complete sense. The parasites did not want you having any telepathy, any empathy, nor any connection to anything spiritual. Nor did they want you living for too long, because longevity is problematic when the crop of desire is your species' adolescent children. Come on, it isn't rocket science, is it? It's actually very simple when you are presented truth. Children can work it out when informed because it is reality, and therefore it will make sense. If something doesn't make sense, it's because it isn't right, true, or real. But if it does make total sense, well, therein lies your required proof. They started work on that straight away by cutting the giant trees down. The main spirit tree was taken out by the Greys, who are the masters of multidimensional weaponry and frequency specialists. The Greys can phase matter in and out of overlays, and they can do this easier than you taking a piss. And for that reason, they were the ones who installed the black sun in the center of the planet after removing the spirit tree, by turning it to stone, as they did with the troublesome giants who were unlucky enough to be here when it happened. What's left of that spirit tree is what you know of as Met Meru, or the Northern Rock. That rock was previously the wooden base trunk of the spirit tree. Let that sink in. They sealed the gaping wound in the planet's surface around the petrified spirit tree stump, aka Northern Rock or Black Rock, by technology, and then hooked up the pole star to beam down directly onto the gaping wound left after the tree was destroyed. Don't forget, this tree was fuck off big. Its trunk circumference was likely over 100 plus miles. This was done so that any residual positive energy would be suppressed forever, with a permanent beam of negative energy sent out as a constant flow day and night from the pole star. There was permanent suppression of any residual positivity in this area, an area which we now know is the true location of what we collectively know of as Antarctica. Antarctica was also inverted, so north becomes south and south becomes north, meaning that what they describe as being at the South Pole is actually situated near Met Meru, a vast area of many hundreds of thousands of square miles. The Northern Rock, or Black Rock, is situated in the very center of this huge zone. It's easy to work out when you can see it for what it is. There are some structures, ancient and modern, located at that which you know of as the South Pole, being the ice wall that you newly awakening souls believe is Antarctica. The spirit tree's roots will be reactivated, and the tree will be resung into existence, with joyous satisfaction, when the day soon arrives. The black sun is the negative battery that they use to replace the purpose of the spirit tree. The spirit tree, being 200% positive and essential for our way of life, was obviously turned into the exact opposite of its original purpose. So the black sun was the Lush storage mechanism. And for any newcomers, Lush is the energy given off of anyone who isn't happy, basically, and that could be you, angry at a traffic jam, or a row with your wife in the supermarket, a prisoner in jail, or a dead relative. But the best quality and lowest fee manifestation of this energetic food and energy is obtained from torturing children, for their fear is experienced as insane and palpable terror, and not in any way is their discomfort emanated from the nerve. Anger dilutes the fear, and the louche isn't as good quality, so they need children in utter terror, rather than a room full of angry people too old to be as scared as is required for the purest quality adrenochrome. So, that's why it's the kids who are the main crop. But I well digressed there, but I had to set the scene for the explanation of the vertical scenario I was discussing earlier. Please bear with me. Right, so we got the understanding of the nodal points being suppressed by the cathedrals and military bases, train tracks, car parks, etc., since their appearance in the mists of time. We have seen how these epicenters of energy experience greater and greater levels of suppression over time as villages turn into towns, then cities, further smearing negativity all over the surrounding area of the original nodal point. Now we will delve into the myth of distance and the illusion of travel, because I will need you to understand the nodal points and the schematic of suppression in order to explain the myth of distance and the illusion of travel. Also, how and why the projection dome was even created in the first place. You see, this is obviously all woven together in the art of deception. It is a very complicated and highly advanced system that all works together with your genetically modified senses. I'm already 10,881 words into this last synopsis, and I haven't even gotten started yet. This section I have come back to insert. I've almost finished the synopsis itself, but it's taken me 3 weeks to be able to wrap my head around a plausible way of explaining this part in a way that the lady will be able to perceive as tangible. After all, this info is triple far out, very alien to a third density mindset educated here in this realm, because what you are told is real is not real. In simplified terms, that's all there is to it, and it makes reality sound proper stupid. The other issue I face here with this info is when Christian says a paragraph of intel, which is constantly because intel is all we discuss, then that paragraph is going to be about 2 to 3,000 words just to explain that paragraph, and he don't stop talking. If his eyes are open, then his mouth is moving, and harmonic tones are coming out of his gob. We interpret this as language, but in essence it is in fact harmonic tones, but let me not go there as a long digression will surely ensue. So let's try and envisage the illusion of travel and the myth of distance. For this explanation, we needed to understand the nodal points, which hopefully now I have explained. There are hundreds of millions of nodal points on the flat plane of Gateway 10, and Gateway 10 is, as we say, 177 other worlds, with over 14,000 civilizations of highly intelligent and spiritually superior beings. Their homeworlds, situated just over the ice wall that you know of as Antarctica, are different in many, many ways, and for many, many reasons. They too have nodal points, but they do not have projection domes, and they do not have negative overlays. You see here in Realm 3 is a highly unconventional situation. Look at your own closest city as an example. You have a cathedral, you have a hospital or 3, a prison, several schools, many car parks, an airport, and multiple supermarkets, etc. These, as we discussed above, are built directly on major nodal points. That is the reason that the edifice was even constructed there in the first place, to dampen the natural and highly positive frequencies that emanate, as one would expect, from these locations. But that nodal point in your main city is also the main nodal point in the other planet-wide cities. So the Templar Church in London's Square Mile was, as those of you who have been paying attention will already understand, formerly a crystalline healing temple, created to aid in physical manifestation, how your goods and products are manufactured normally, and to ensure homeostasis for all who lived near it. Yet the Temple Church nodal point in London is in fact the same nodal point in the capital cities of Spain, France, Sweden, Bulgaria, Thailand, Germany, Switzerland, Hungary, Moldova, Russia, Turkey, Yemen, Israel, Macedonia, Paraguay, Bolivia, Bogota, Ecuador, China, Ukraine, Costa Rica, Canada. Do I need to carry on? You see, these are the same nodes in all major cities' countries. It is the same nodes because we actually live in a simulated cube. Countries are stacked vertically on top of each other. The same with the other minor nodes. The church down the road from me here now will have a countrywide counterpart in all other countries, because it is in fact the same node being amplified throughout the tonal frequencies generated by the simulation and amplified by the physical energetic crystalline lattice membrane on the physical plane of existence. We are not separated by horizontal and spatial distance. We are separated by crystalline lattice membranes of UHF, or ultra-high frequency, layered in horizontal coherence, over the lattice network grid, contained within a cube, with the physical plane of Gateway 10 being the physical arena of the actual experience of physicality itself, located at the bottom. The other simulations are stacked on top of you, like a layer cake, billions and billions of separate frequencies all in the correct place, held there by the necessity of scale and the natural progression of cycles ordained by the original masters of creation, literally. But how? How is that possible? When to fly to Spain, for instance, I get in the aircraft, I take my seat, I put my seatbelt on, and the plane ascends into the sky at about 45 degrees of ascent. I have done this 400 times or more, so don't tell me about flying on commercial flights, because I'm a fucking expert. So, when you hit the point of ascent, where the seatbelt signs blink off, this is usually after the first event of turbulence that is commonly experienced by air travelers, but we will come to this after. The same time as you used to be allowed to light a cigarette on flights in the 1990s and prior, the time when you can get up and go to the toilet on the plane, stretch your legs, etc., is the same time they allow you to open your window shutter. They close it before landing, you may have noticed. But when you reach altitude, whatever that altitude may be, the plane is no longer climbing. You are now horizontal. When you look out of the window, all you will see is undulating cloud formations, a blanket of cloud, not any landmass or sea. Sporadically, they let you see the land below, usually the ocean, and usually only on longer flights so it looks less Mac. But as you come into descent to land, the thick cloud cover elapses, and you start to see the ocean, then the land of your destination country below you on the ground. Also notice the turbulence experienced during landing as well as takeoff. This turbulence is not warm air meeting cold air, yet that explanation is very realistically envisaged in one's discombobulated mind. The reality is that the turbulence felt in the aircraft is caused by the vehicle entering and exiting an aviation time looped corridor. The same thing happens on land and sea, but without the turbulence. A time-looped corridor is like a very advanced visual scenery that moves in towards you as the aircraft seemingly approaches the new visual horizon, just like on any computer game, where you are running, walking, flying, or driving forwards, and the scenery is presented in front of you at the right speed, and at the right perspective. Yet the same with the computer game, it's all an illusion. The aircraft is almost stationary, like you sitting on the couch in front of the Xbox, playing the game, and the clouds are the only thing in motion, a holographic projection of surroundings in motion, giving the illusion of travel and the myth of distance. Whereas in reality, the aircraft is merely waiting for the allocated flight time to elapse. They can then exit the time-looped corridor with more turbulence experienced into the overlay of the country of destination. So for instance, flying from the UK to Australia is I think about 23 hours. So you will take off, reach altitude, and then experience turbulence mostly as you enter the time-phased corridor. You then wait in that illusion for 22.5 hours or more, seeing land and sea sporadically through the entire trip. And maybe several instances of turbulence as you enter and exit various overlays, as to make it look real. They need to show you some of Europe, some of Africa, etc., on your way to Australia. Yet it's all an illusion to create the myth of distance, the separation of nations, and the cementation that the universe is fucking huge as fuck, when the reality is far, far different. Travel is instantaneous, distance isn't real, the inhabitable universe isn't fucking massive, solar systems do not exist, space is not what you were told, neither was COVID, neither was history, neither was religion, neither was science, architecture, manufacturing, industry, sport, entertainment, leisure, food, or travel. The pilots have no clue to this. Only elite bloodline family members and parasites would ever have known this fact. Pilots will never see the portal that they are all entering. It all looks the same to them as it does to you, just a blanket of cloud and a blue sky above it. You are in the corridor at this time. On land and the sea, the rolling scenery is slightly more obscure because of the locality of the passing scenery, and the fact that you can get out of the car as you are driving along the highway and get a coffee, or take a piss in a bush. Whereas on an aircraft, you can't get out of the vehicle. The scenery is presented to you outside the windows, alone. So on any road trip longer than a couple of hours, you will also be in a time-looped corridor, where for those encapsulated inside your vehicle together, your scenery will be brought into view and presented based on the speed that your vehicle is traveling at. It's easy on the ocean because it all looks the same. It's the same in snow-swept landscapes, impossible to see or to understand, until Christian 21 dropped his epic intel, information that I am very proud to be documenting for the first time in thousands of years. Wagwan ma people, y'all need to wake up as soon as possible. The internal thought processes of all you star seeds is no coincidence. Neither is your learning curve, nor your arc trajectory, your societal tier, neither your lover, your child, your pet dog, or your prison sentence. The schematics of 15th density allow for the maturation of the impossible to meld with physicality in real time. Your Wizard of Oz moment will be the same as mine. You are not prepared for the emotion of acceptance and understanding. For when you stand at the precipice of doom for so long, you know there is no way out, and there wasn't a way out, you were correct. You volunteered to come in here with no way out. You knew full well you would be murdered, raped, killed, and eaten many times over, and you did that because your friends and family were being raped and tortured for adrenochrome. The people you had known for millions or billions of years were being eaten and killed, life after life, by a parasitic regime that had your worst nightmare embossed as their mission statement for the very means of their own prolonged survival. The reptilians and parasites in general did not eat the flesh of human meat. They only used the blood, secretion glands, and the organs in a human vessel. So what then was done with the leftovers? I think most people with electricity in their homes are now aware of where some of the leftovers went, but let's examine this further. The tarmac we discussed above, and the cement, plaster, paint, Artex adhesives, the human bones of all sacrifice end up here in these products under generic names such as the numbers in food, sometimes just catalog numbers with a realistic yet untrue origin, such as emulsifiers, thickeners, and additives with generic names. So, your house is built with cement that one of Donald Trump's companies owned. Donny Boy Trump owns 50% of the cement factories on this planet through his various interests and multinational mergers, and the cement is made mostly of human bones and the hard parts of the human skeleton that is unable to be eaten in the food products of this world's daily consumptional needs. The same with plaster, Artex, paint, aggregates of human waste are added to the construction materials of everything you would use to make or decorate a home with. Even plasterboard for dry-lined walls has ground skeletal powder sandwiched in between the paper outer casing. Think about it, it's pretty obvious at this stage. By adding the remains of victims killed in satanic ritual abuse to the tarmac, paint, cement, plaster, etc., this is also dampening any positive energies in the same way that a graveyard full of decomposing corpses will negate the dampened and positive energy emanating from the former crystalline healing temple that is now downgraded to a church. The Council of 12 Sons, who Christian's ET father is one of, created the simulation framework for all of the gateways in this cube. This means that he and several others of Lyran lineage, as the Lyran lineage are the oldest beings to take physical form, they actually created the possibility for physical form in the first place, and therefore the first physical vessels were all Lyran. That does not mean that they all looked like cats. It means that the symbology of a lion, its protective strengths, its loving care, staunch courage, and big heart, signifies it as an emblem that best epitomizes this lineage's prized traits. Most other species came from the Lyran lineage. In fact, all giants come from this lineage also. Giants are ancient beings and the most trusted. You can't fuck with a giant because it will just flick you away with their mind. But where was I? Our Zol family was only able to help by inserting their offspring, who were also tasked with the construction of physicality itself, and helped create the framework of physical life in the distant past, along with them, their creators or mother and father. These beings, here now for the last 178,000 years, are not here because they are bestowed with third density knowledge and hung like a donkey, in cerebral endowment, degrees, or accolades. No, these beings are here now because of their soul signature's architecture. Because of their age, their experience over epochs, and their experience in the prior creation of physicality, they are all as oblivious as the next man is. They are unaware of any mission they had to do in at least the last 50,000 years. These beings are shown to you in movies such as Jupiter Ascending, as only one example. Jupiter in this film is a young woman born into poverty in downtown New York or some other shithole. She is utterly unaware of who she actually is, where she actually is, or even why she actually is. But she comes to understand the enormity of this fact as the movie unfolds. She is a fifth plus density being born into this realm for change, in a situation of human harvesting for a product with many names, Regeneron in the movie, yet in reality they are discussing adrenochrome, obviously. You must understand that there has been no truth told to you, not on any subject that you have ever encountered or studied. Replace the word lessons with programming, pointless programming, and you will be closer to understanding reality. So, the more degrees you have merely equates to extended brainwashing, that's all. Even this is inverted in the Academy of Fools because degrees are celebrated. Oh, I obtained 6 degrees from Oxford, and in 6 fields, showcasing the wares of their intellect in the competitional arena of life. Don't forget that this just sounds far out. It's actually the only place that you will find the truth to anything, and it only sounds far out, or ridiculous, because you have been purposefully lied to about all of history. Everything to do with ET that you have ever heard is a lie. I mean, come on, they told you that there was a deadly virus that you needed a bioweapon to help protect others from, to prevent spreading. So if they wanted to inject you with a bioweapon, and they lied about the fact that it was a bioweapon, and told you it was an essential vaccine for a deadly virus, do you think they may have lied about anything else ever? It's obvious, isn't it? It's only willful blindness that prevents clear cognition on the subject. The ostentatious absurdity of Christian 21's information and revelations are for most just a little too exotic for the type of upbringing that people have had here in the last 100 years. And can you see why? Because the parasites knew full well that their days were to end around the first 100 years after the new millennium, way back over 100 years ago, just after the dust had settled on the last reset. They started drip feeding into the various societies and cultures that which they would require the fruition of in the future, as one example, gay. Ekel. Being gay had never happened before the parasites occupied this realm. The last reset in Tartaria, there were no gay people. I'm not homophobic myself. I have gay friends of both sexes. I have friends who have lesbian children now in their late teens, and to be perfectly honest, I would rather have them be gay. I would much rather my friends' female kids date the same sex than date a boy. Why would I want 3 young women who I adore as if they were God incarnate to date a road man? But they needed to introduce gay men and women because they needed LGBTQ. You don't realize how important to the parasites LGBTQ was in the final mockery when they knew their days were short, in the final half of the reset, and because their gods are transgender. A demon also has no gender. They prefer a trans vessel. That's why Baphomet was a transgender goat god. Mockery, it's all mockery of you, and never more so important, for the parasites, than in their post-exit vacuum, left behind as they exited several years ago, rounded up, contained, and executed, as you will see for yourself on the EBS or Emergency Broadcast Service. The EBS will not be ambiguous. It will be detailed, thorough, and highly shocking. They need you to be in shock so that nothing like this ever happens again. People need to feel the memory of the severe consequences for doing silly things such as selling your own soul, as this doesn't just last for this life, it's every single life you have after selling your soul, and in some cases that can be thousands of lives and over many eras in time. Selling your soul is not a temporary situation. It's the subjugation of all that you are for eternity, and it can only lead to the destruction of your species, or your world and your way of life. For people who do not know what a roadman is, let me explain. Roadmen are mostly NPCs, who are no longer in prison and are now out on the road. Roadmen are no longer roadmen after adolescent age. The sell-by date of a roadman is quite short. Somebody has usually stabbed them to death before they reach 30 years of age, and as most people are NPCs anyway, the same applies to roadmen. Built into the simulation parameters for the endgame of the custodian's ideal future in their post-defeat vacuum, it was merely another gear in the wheel of deceit and subjugation, another helm in the navigation of the corrupted and stagnant souls who occupied this realm. For an NPC, roadman is there to fulfill a role of modernity and the manifestation of social dissonance, the hooded pack that unite in postcode demography. It's so obvious, so negative, yet so necessary. As a second example, for instance, there was Michael Ryan in the UK in the 1980s. He went mental with a handgun in, I think it was 1987. Handguns were once legal in the UK, and he killed a load of children in a primary school. Michael Ryan was an MK Ultra victim, used as a reason to ban handguns in England, because they didn't want anyone rebelling and having firearms like United States citizens have the right to own and carry. Basically, that's all it was for. So Michael Ryan was used. One of his personalities was activated by music, an image, or maybe even a telephone call, that when answered, was the trigger to activate Michael Ryan into his killing spree. That sealed in the new law with public approval backing the ban on handguns so that no other children and families in the UK ever need to worry about psycho gunmen killing sprees with handguns in schools. Can you see this yet? It's very blatant. Problem reaction solution, as the 33rd degree Freemasonic child-killing pedophile said, i.e. David Icke, himself a nonce cunt long ago executed and replaced. But all these instances of mass killings by the public are not members of the public whatsoever. They have been brought into the murky world of MK Ultra abuse, programmed by pain and suffering, rape and torture, then acts of kindness and love into yet more torture and then more kindness and love, repeatedly over and over for years. Years of ostentatious physical and psychological abuse will, in a small percentage of those being brainwashed in this technique, cause splits in people's personalities. Sometimes these are young homeless people, taken off the streets randomly, and sometimes it will be a publicized missing child, stolen to abuse and turned into a weapon after years of rape and abuse. Most of these subjects die during the years of torture, but occasionally an asset will be produced, such as a Jason Bourne character, a master of disguise, subterfuge, deception, technology, and evasion. This is one of the things that black-budget projects, such as the Montauk Project, are looking for. Children to break, and then put back together with a plethora of different personalities inside the same brain. These personalities all have completely different skill sets, and are visibly different people evidenced by the way they act, move, talk, and think. Google the documentary, The Montauk Project. It's absurd yet very interesting indeed. You will gain an understanding of the process of creating these serial killers. There are some random killers not connected to the elite family bloodline members and Freemasons, yet these groups are rocking horse shit compared to the reality of the situation, which is all of your known, loved, trusted, and respected pillars of the community and the heroes of celebratorial fame. They show you these personalities in films such as Split, starring James McAvoy, and many other movies. Shutter Island is another film that springs to mind, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. These psychological thrillers and horror films are actually all based on real events, real testing, real experiments, real situations, yet embellished with the tinsel of entertainment, pitched to you as a clever storyline with many twists and turns. Yet it is all merely in plain sight revelations of that which they were collectively doing to the various populations of the world. Various tortures, various scenarios, set in various eras of time, Yet all these plots and storylines are in fact true renditions of actual crimes and actual torture, actual genetic experimentation and actual reality, pitched to you as horror films, sci-fi films, drama films, suspense, and thrillers, etc. Even the hit movie, Stephen King's IT, even this movie is based on reality. The reality being that they use the character of the clown in real situations. The clown, Pennywise, is a real thing, a shape-shifting Alpha Draco or whoever they need to look like Pennywise. Children were lured into the slaughter room by a friendly-looking clown who offered them sweets and a comfy seat. Then the atmosphere changes. In a nanosecond, Pennywise shapeshifts in front of the children. The most terrifying thing that you can imagine, if you are a 5-year-old child, is a jovial clown who is just giving you sticks of candy and lemonade, who starts shapeshifting into its true form, while you are sitting on its fucking lap, being a 14 feet tall child-eating reptilian with several rows of very sharp teeth, remarkably similar to the clown from Stephen King's IT and the character in the Marvel movie Venom. Some of the Dumby-based footage will show you this during the EBS. It's abhorrently despicable, and you will be very ill when you see it. Some of you will die from shock when you see this footage. And there is a lot of footage far worse than this. This is the relatively tame torture footage. The child gets eaten quickly, as opposed to drawn-out torture lasting several days and flayed alive gradually over that time. It's a fucking good job that I didn't know any of this for 2022. It wouldn't be right for me to know this level of information before then, because I am actually third density as absolute fuck, to be honest. I was raised here as well. I had a similar experience to my peers, all but, and I was subjected to the same hurdles in life. When you realize that wars were won and lost just for mockery, oh, and the adrenochrome and organ harvesting and loosh, your suffering and the suffering of your ancestors was essential. It will be a shocking revelation, to say the least, but it is what it is. So where was... It wouldn't have been much good, me knowing any reality until 2022. I would have done something about it after realizing that death wasn't real in 1994, during that ketamine experience I mentioned previously, which I documented at length in a previous synopsis a couple of years ago. If I even had sporadic recall on a past life, I wouldn't have known Satanism was so endemic. I would likely have assumed it was just a few Freemasons. Or I would have got the wrong end of the stick and fucked it all up by being all gung-ho in that. 1,000,000% I would, with the fear of death removed since I was 21 years old. I can be a bit of a nightmare sometimes if the situation demands it, such as if I was aware of a sacrificial group of child-killing nonces, they would be well dead, by my hand, and then I wouldn't be available to do any of the things I do now. So for that reason alone, I am glad I was oblivious to any of this. How Christian was present at sacrifices from such a young age, and how come he has not gone off the rails by now is a miracle if you ask me. Knowing this from age 9, and having to put up with the fact that he is the only person that any of this was happening to, seeing craft in the sky, and playing hide-and-seek with imaginary friends, that turn out to be his ET soul family requesting he starts to remember what his continuing mission is all about. Imaginary friends that young children sometimes have are all real, and they are all ET soul family 100% of the time. They are there to play with and soothe lonely or upset children. Obviously, the child will have no idea of this. They are young and too innocent to understand why they are there experiencing physical life in this child's mind-wiped vessel. But Christian's imaginary friends were here for a very different reason, although he didn't know that back then. Look at the sea of insanity online, claimers and profiteers pumping out remastered fake and untrue intel. Created by the CIA in the 1930s onwards to paint an image on the canvas of our collective minds of the notion that alien life is real and was indeed kept hidden. Because hiding it was important to amplify the mystery surrounding it required to create uncertainty, to eventually erupt as palpable fear when the fake alien invasion occurs later this month. It also imprints in the minds of the populace the heliocentric model of the universe, and the notion that any possible intelligent life will be many light years of travel away, and that they may well be a threat. And also that they are highly advanced in order to travel these vast interstellar distances, and that they have something to do with human body parts, which was woven into the storyline of Roswell for the embroidery of fear. Roswell was 5 UFO crashes over a few days. It may have been 7 UFO crashes over 5 days, I forget. Mistakes do not happen in fourth density, only here in third, so no ET craft can be brought down by third density scala waves, just for the record. And one of the said craft had a load of people's arms, legs, and torsos on it when it crashed, leading the public to be slightly concerned there could be a nefarious aspect to these space aliens' presence here on our planet. The overlays solder in your fake perception. Think of a bus, a double-decker bus. I saw this the other day on TikTok, and it struck me straight away. An average family car has 2 seats in the front, and mostly 3 seats in the back, sometimes just 2 seats. The average family car fits within the regulated road lane width universally in all countries. There are smaller cars than a family vehicle, but let's use a larger family vehicle for the thought exercise. In your car between the driving seat and the passenger seat, there is usually a handbrake and a plastic dashboard with 2 air vents close to the doors on the dash. Boot, when you get on a bus, especially a double-decker bus, which has the same seating area upstairs as downstairs, it makes it even more obvious. Because the bus still fits in the same size road lane as a family car does, and the bus will need to be a very similar width to fit in that allocated area on the road. So when you get on a bus, you have at least 2 seats either side of a walkway. You then often have a staircase to go upstairs, and storage on the walkway for pushchairs and shopping. We are only discussing the width of the bus at this point, not the length. Focus on the width of your car that you get in most often, then imagine the last time you got on a bus. If you never rode a bus before, then take a bus ride. There is a lot more going on than careful space-saving design. It's not physically possible to fit in 4 seats widthways and then a walkway. Sometimes there are 3 seats on either side. That's 6 fucking people sitting next to each other in a space that no one else can fit more than 2 people in. Yet the road width is the same for both types of vehicles, because you live in a simulation. Overlays shoehorn the misperceptions in smoothly without interruption. Sometimes online you will see trees floating in the air, and birds or airplanes paused in mid-flight. These are all the white hats showing you in plain sight, a small piece of reality in the run-up to the revelations of the apocalypse, or the revealing of that which was previously obscured. Because the option to know all this was laid out 4 years ago. Christian has dropped so much intel, and about so many topics and over so many different epochs. It's beyond explanation because of its obvious nature of real, that he is obviously telling the truth. It's just all so obvious if you have taken the time to look. It makes total sense to me that the benevolent ET who saved our sorry arses went to great measures to guarantee that they only bring those home who are ready to return, those who have accepted and gotten over the revelations of the apocalypse with an intact psyche, and those who are prepared for these revelations. The harmonic frequencies that sung their soul into existence was required here in what is now Realm 3, formerly Realm 2. Their initial harmonic tones, codes if you will, were part of the creation of this gateway, this realm, and this world, and they are here now because they have to be here now. They were here before the start of the occupation, and they will be here after, home not here, lol. The custodians were the first parasites. They are ancient beings, hoary with age. They were once upon a time highly benevolent and highly trusted. Imagine a huge corporation with offices everywhere and huge manufacturing capabilities. Now imagine you had 6 or 7 partners in that company, and you all helped create it from scratch. You all put many years into building this important and cutting-edge company with all its corporate technology and expensive servers and data centers, networking the multinational company to the entire planet. Now imagine that one of your partners in the company decided that he wanted a bit more control, a bit more autonomy. He thought he could run the entire company on his own, without the other partners. Instead, he could bring family members in, people who would always agree with his decisions and back him fully. Because this partner helped set the company up, he had the keys to every room, the keys to the safe, the website domain information and passwords. He had the bank account details, all the stock market details, and he shafted the other 6 partners and locked them out of all their offices, took all their bank funds and closed the website, sealing off entry to all the property that you once jointly owned and benefited from, back when you were working together as one, with a common goal. This is basically what happened, in third density understanding for simplicity's sake. The custodians were our traitorous partners in our perfect company. They had all the designs, all the plans, all the systems information, and back then they could manifest and create in the higher densities, light realms as we could. But when they reneged on their role as caretakers who were working with us, they lost the ability to manifest and create. As mentioned previously in another synopsis, manufacturing is done in the higher densities and brought into physicality by benevolent and focused intention. You can't have this ability if you are not operating within the parameters of the law of one. So when the custodians started making moves towards their envisaged autonomy, their surrounding density dropped in line with their consciousness's new parameters. They were not stupid. They knew this would happen, and because of this natural consequence foreseen by the custodians many years prior, they created themselves a vast workforce of other parasitic beings. The custodians created the Anunnaki, the Nibiruans, and a plethora of other highly negative beings, yet also highly intelligent. These all went on to create their own other negative species and workforces. The parasites all ended up warring with each other constantly for more power, resources, technology, and food. Even the demons were created by the custodians, who knocked up a demonic energy to be used in their constant struggle to replicate for themselves a demonic source, or ultimate awareness. It failed, and now they are mostly all dead ages ago. They were all killed before the White Hats even got started on the royal families of the realm. Now it's about waking up a very reluctant and very cynical general public. The truth is that fiction is based on fact, and what you are informed of as fact is actually based on fiction. Period. And that is what it is that people need to come to terms with and accept to process and get over the revelations of the apocalypse, with their mind intact and functioning as normal, i.e., able to retain human fecal matter and urine at will. Deal with it and process it as best that you can, because what is coming is ostentatiously over the top in terms of depravity, torturing, pain, duration of time, and the most abhorrent acts against the planet's most cherished members, the youngest members of society, the most innocent babies and children. Y'all need to suck this shit up. All you people out there desperate for a med bed to restore longevity and homeostasis because of the life you had, you feel cheated of your health by Big Pharma and the mechanism of subterfuge. You feel let down and hoodwinked by they, and you deserve the forgiveness of all debt and the National Economic Security and Recovery Act, or the Global Economic Security Recovery Act, or even the cabal's version being the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. A Global Economic Security and Reformation Act, the two being somewhat different. It's highly confusing for a sleeper, yet they are both discussing a situation which is presented as a no-brainer for any sentient being. Utopia, some may call it. But the online social media memes, info, and videos of the Quantum Initiative are all singing from the same fake hymn sheet. People assume way too much from the lies presented to them.